Another week, boys, and another TWAB. This week at Bungie, we're talking about some upcoming material changes, diving deep into some player-submitted questions with our weapons team, and addressing some of the misinformation floating around regarding recent account bans. What's that? That's the sound of some excitable changes on the horizon, but we need to get there first. So what about the here and now? You may be wondering. Glad you did that. The wondering parts. For the immediate future, we're able to share a closer look at the upcoming economic changes coming to Destiny 2 for Season 19. With bigger, more core changes around the corner, there are a few areas that the team is tightening up to prepare. But before we offer a small taste of what's to come, we want to take a moment to talk about the recent account bans. It's a sensitive issue, and we want to be transparent and ensure that the information you have is correct. Oh my God, Bungie be addressing everything today. Let's go! Account bans, an update from our security team. Here to talk about the most recent wave of account bans and restrictions is our product security team. So security here. Before I get into the explanations, we apologize to impacted players up front. Our job is to protect our players, and our team unfortunately did the opposite this past week. When mistakes are made, transparency is important. We hope the information below, vague as it may be, in order to avoid teaching cheat developers about our systems, provide insight into what happened. During the development of one of our cheat detections, a combination of requirements was set for banning a particular class of cheaters. We utilized specific signatures that those types of players generate. Early last week, we started seeing an increase in appeals and began investigating. Once we identified the problem with the signature, we immediately unbanned anyone we could identify as impacted. We then began reviewing recent security actions with a fine-tooth comb and continued to unban people based on a review of appeals and our own investigations where appropriate. Here are some points to consider when discussing the most recent wave. The number of accounts caught cheating in other ways is much larger than those impacted by the mistake described above. Looking at just this new detection, which itself is a fraction of all the security actions that take place, approximately 60 accounts were false positives. This mistake was a result of human error. We worked as quickly as we could to identify and rectify it. We sincerely apologize for the anxiety and uncertainty this caused. Unbans began to occur within 24 hours of the first indication of a problem. Anyone who has appealed against their ban and subsequently been unbanned has received a direct response to their appeal indicating that reversal. We have several ways of detecting cheating in Destiny 2, and those unbanned were those affected by the specific error mentioned above. If a player finds themselves banned in the future, they were detected by one of our other methods. We can confirm that there is a lot of misinformation being passed around regarding why a person may have been banned or unbanned. In instances when unbans happen, players who were knowingly cheating insert themselves into these conversations to try to get their own bans overturned. Please utilize our ban appeal process so we can follow up with individual accounts. Excellent news! Okay, listen, cheaters being dealt with, it's my favorite thing in the world. It's better than that cup of coffee in the morning or that afternoon delight. But it was worrying us that people innocently were getting banned, and everybody was like, yo, I'm getting banned, I'm innocent, and it turns out only 60 accounts were false positives? Oh, you folks are lying then. Yeah, don't get me wrong, those 60 people are innocent, but the rest of you dang cheating bastards. With that being said though, net limiting, and we had a whole video on this, is obviously becoming a big deal. Jesus, just play the game, fellas. The hell? Now weapons, I am your father. Systems design team, probably. Look, there's no denying that Destiny has some pretty sweet tools for Guardians to kick butt and take names with. From flashy purple, magic of awesome, to the all-helpful Divinity for support, there's a seemingly endless line of badass gadgets in our Guardians arsenal. Our weapons team has been talking a lot about different weapon changes and philosophy, and now they are back to tackle some of the most asked questions we get regarding that pew-pew power. Here to chat more are a few members of our weapons team, including test engineer Taylor, design intern Alex, designers Brandon and Vivian, associate designer Mercules, senior designer George, as well as senior design lead Chris Proctor. Let's just jump right into those questions, team. So general questions. When the full auto setting arrives for all weapons, are you still going to keep the full auto trigger system mod as an option? It's kind of nice to have the flexibility without making every weapon full auto. Yes, there are no plans to remove it. The full auto trigger system mod isn't going away. Interesting. All right, so it's going to be optional. What will replace full auto trigger system on exotics that have it as a perk when the new accessibility feature goes live? The answer to this, we don't want to inadvertently make these stronger in PvP, so the goal here was to replace full auto with something fun and thematic, but more useful in PvE than in PvP. Here are some examples. Traveler's Chosen, replace full auto trigger system in the Catalyst with Surplus. Oh my God, that's so good. Vigilance Wing, replace full auto trigger system in the Catalyst with Ensemble. All right, no time to explain. Replace full auto trigger system with Feeding Frenzy. Actually though, holy hell. Yo, will our turret buddy proc Feeding Frenzy, I wonder? Surely not, right? Overall though, dude, Traveler's Chosen, already so good. Surplus on that thing is gonna be disgusting. Now Divinity. Note that encounters are built built around players having access to being able to weaken, as many folks have theorized. We don't believe that Divinity in its current form is actually a balanced problem. That is, it's not necessarily too strong in isolation. That said, Divinity is incredibly dominant in in-game PvE because it trivializes aiming precision weapons and has an extremely high uptime for weaken. The most important issue is that Divinity granting 30% weaken sucks the air out of the room for all other weakened sources, such as tether and tractor cannon. And we don't want to power creep past Divinity to make them interesting. Oh boy. With this in mind, we've been looking at Divinity for a while now, and I've tested a variety of changes in Season 19 over the last few months, landing on reducing Divinity's weaken from 30% to 15%. Now listen guys, before everyone starts to freak out, let me just mention, this is not that bad. It could have been way worse. They could have just removed the crit and its identity completely. What this actually does is it is going to bring up other classes or other means of debuffs, such as tether or even tractor cannon. So although this is a nerf, and I feel like everyone is probably running to Salt Greppo's Twitter right now, this is not as bad as what I was expecting. I was actually expecting way worse. Like I was expecting them to just completely kill the identity of the weapon and it not even offer a debuff or even a crit spot. So again, a nerf's a nerf. And if you're upset by this, I get it. I'm just not as upset considering I was expecting way worse. Now moving on. Comments on kinetic weapons in PvE. We're looking at kinetic damage type as opposed to slot changes, sometimes post lightfall, to make this a more interesting aspect of how weapons feel. Interesting. Okay. I know they do a little bit more damage, but what else could they be doing? What about adept raid weapon viability? As it stands, crafted based raid weapons are flat out better than adept raid weapons. We're not happy with this current state and have changes coming in Lightfall that give the new Lightfall raid adept weapons access to enhanced perks. Note that this is not going to be full freeform crafting. It's a little complex, so please look out for more information to come when we're a little closer to Lightfall's release. I'm actually thinking it's going to drop with enhanced traits, guys. What do y'all think? I think this is going to still be based on RNG, but it can drop with enhanced perks. How would y'all like that? Now, future plans for exotic champion weapons. We don't have specific plans to add anti-champion mechanics to existing exotic weapons. The goal of recent additions was to address some obvious holes in the options available, and we're happy with how that worked out. That said, we are building anti-champion functionality into new exotic weapons in Season 19 and may revisit other weapons later if we see a need. Yeah, the changes added to our exotics this season, Thunderlord, Wishender is a big one. That anti-champion functionality definitely gave value to those exotics. Now, King's Fall weapons have unorthodox perk pools. What are the team's feelings about continuing to do this versus making custom raid perks to differentiate in-game rewards? We have guidelines for how spicy perk pools can be depending on the difficulty of the source of the weapon. For example, Trials of Osiris and raid weapons get to break our standard perk combination rules. The King's Fall weapons push this to an extreme, and we're evaluating whether they're an actual balance issue. Seems okay so far though. We intend raid origin traits to make raid weapons feel unique and may still make one or more perks that are exclusive to a new raid. Starting in Season 19, you'll see a small number of non-raid weapons get access to perks from older raids. Oh, okay. Non-raid weapons getting access to perks from older raids. I wonder if we're gonna even get the perk combinations from older raids. And how old? What are we talking about, Bungie? They got it in italics. Y'all see that? Now, in regards to like perk combinations that are talking about that's like too strong, I think a good example of that is actually the Midas Reckoning fusion rifle from King's Fall. If you got like a reservoir burst roll, that combination with Runneth Over is really, really good. And there's certain combinations from previous raids that made weapons stand out. Look no further than Kindle Orchid. It could roll Rampage and Kill Clip on the same weapon. Yes, you could double stack damage perks. And we've seen it with like things like Transfiguration. Because those weapons are harder to get, Bungie adds value to them by giving you trait combinations you wouldn't really find elsewhere. Now, does Outbreak Perfected truly have persistence? Or is it simply its recoil settling like any weapon? Outbreak does not have persistence. It does have 90 recoil direction, where similar weapons are in the 40 to 60 range. But more importantly, it recoils like an auto rifle, not a pulse rifle, which is part of why it feels so unique. This was a Destiny 1 bug that we elected to maintain in Destiny 2 in its reprised form. Interesting. So Outbreak Perfected doesn't have a hidden persistent trait. It's just a bug. Now, the code denial that Xur sold with the accuracy masterwork, does that actually improve its accuracy? Masterworks provide additional weapon stats to a stat already existing on the weapon. Weapons can't benefit from a stat that they don't have, and only bows have an accuracy stat. The short of it is no. An accuracy masterwork won't have any effect on code denial. Now, do stability perks such as Rapid Hit affect the perfect draw window on bows? Yes, anything that affects the stability stat on a bow will affect the perfect draw window. There it is, fellas. Give them more reason to use Rapid Hit, not just for the reload, but also the stability. This is great information, by the way. How was it for the weapons team to add subclass verbs like Headstone, Chill Clip, and Incandescent to weapons? Did you enjoy syncing the two more closely in gameplay and builds? Subclass 3.0 verbs opened up a huge amount of design space for weapons. The perks we've already made are just the beginning. Oh man. All right, I'm sure we're gonna have all kinds of new traits, especially with Strand, right? Now, why does only a subset of exotic weapons tie into subclass 3.0? We're not planning to tie every exotic into subclass 3.0 of VERPs, but over time, we'll add functionality to several of them, starting with those that are strongly themed around damage types. We're currently looking at seasons 20 and 21 for passes on this, but we don't have anything more on this particular topic at this time. Yeah, we saw this with Solar 3.0. There was only 3 weapons that actually synergized with Scorch. A lot of people are like, yo, look at Sunshot. Look how much Scorch it's applying. No, it's not. It's in your head, man. That's just Sunshot being Sunshot. Are we going to be able to have multiple perks in each column on crafted weapons at some point in the future? We're investigating this for a possible future release, but it's a more complicated task than it appears at first glance. Nothing in the immediate future, but we will continue to look deeper into this. Yeah, I actually think this has brought up an issue with memory on a single weapon. Y'all remember Bungie talked about creating orbs with a weapon, and there's only like so much like what bandwidth or memory on a weapon. That's why they had to remove it, and you can't create orbs through a masterwork. You actually have to put on a helmet mod, and they had to remove that feature to then add weapon crafting. So I guess adding more traits on a craftable weapon breaks that memory bank. How do the extra perks on ritual rank resets actually work? Is there a cap to the benefits? We have a formula that determines the maximum number of alternative perks based on the number of resets. For example, here are the formula for Valor. Left column, 1 plus in parentheses clamp, Valor reset count, plus 1 over 2010 times RN divided by 2 at 3%. What the hell am I looking at? Bungie, you just being cute now. And underneath that right column is pretty much the same exact thing. Okay, that's pretty arcane. What this means is that the left column maximum perk count increases at first and third resets, and the right column increases at the second and fourth resets. Oh, okay. The maximum possible is 3 perks in each column, with the actual number randomized between 1 and the current maximum. All right, interesting. I do like that though. It actually incentivizes us to reset. There's been a lot of discussion on perk drop rates recently. I'd really like to know if all perks are truly weighted equally and randomized, or if certain perks, that is newer ones, have drop priority. Weapon perks are weighted equally under all circumstances. There are 0 cases in the game where one perk is more likely to roll than the other. Really? Dude, I swear, right? Like maybe RNG is just a fickle thing, but sometimes I just wonder if that elusive god roll is elusive because Bungie made it so. Maybe I just need to complain more. It works for less. I've heard that you're reworking 20 exotic weapons in season 19. Why so many? We said we're touching 20 exotics, both buffs and nerfs, but the extent of that varies quite a bit. From a substantial rework, for example, Lord of Wolves, to a small but impactful change, for example, Legend of Acreus. There's a lot to cover, both big and small. Also, a small update on that number, 20 is out of date, and it's now 26. We always keep the list of under and overused exotics in mind, and decided to take on a big chunk of them in season 19. Good lord, that is a hell of an overhaul. And these are just weapons. 26 weapons. What are the criteria for reprising Destiny 1 weapons in Destiny 2? It's important to note that it's impossible to simply copy and paste Destiny 1 content into Destiny 2. Because of engine changes and a significantly higher bar for art quality on current generation hardware, any Destiny 1 content has to be rebuilt from scratch. They're basically the same development costs as brand new Destiny 2 weapons, and with some exceptions. We believe players significantly prefer new content over reprise. It's kind of hit or miss, man. Like, no lie, I want Pocket Infinity back. Come on, Bungie. For raids, we'll always reprise an exotic weapon associated with a raid when we bring that into Destiny 2. We'll select the 6 most popular legendary weapons and reprise those as well. One other thing, and this hasn't come up yet, but in the event that a raid didn't have an exotic, or that exotic has already come back, or there were fewer than 5 legendaries, we get to make a new weapon to match the raid. Oh! I hope you know what that means, right? Fellas, are you reading in between the lines here? Wrath of the Machine is coming back! We already have Outbreak perfected. We're gonna need a new exotic now, because Necrochasm would be tied to Crota's End, which means Wrath will probably be coming back next summer. Oh my god. Look, I love King's Fall, but Wrath was my favorite. It's a numbers game. Why does Adagio have to be different on so many weapons? It's actually not. Adagio is only branched 2 ways, specifically to prevent it from being too strong on bows. 1-hit kills for getting a single bow kill is way too strong, and shotguns. Bow plus shotgun is a 20% damage buff. Everything else is 30%. Note that because of damage number rounding, it may be difficult for players to reverse engineer this in-game. Yeah, we got different values too. I think there was a couple times we were getting 27%. Whoops! All right, so it's 30% for everything else. 20% for bows and shotguns. Disregard anything we ever said about Adagio. What does Zen Moment actually do? Each hit grants a stack, max of 5, that lowers recoil. Reloading or not hitting for 1 second clears all stacks. As for what it does, maximum stacks massively reduces recoil. All right. Perk Personally, Zen moment on mouse and keyboard, kinda shite. But it is noticeable on controller, and I do like it on controller. But again, doesn't actually affect stability, it just affects recoil. In your opinion, would you use accuracy perks, for example, firmly planted on slug shotguns? By my testing, they seem to be very accurate by default. I don't observe much spread. Slug shotguns are very accurate, so it's likely only worth using accuracy perks if you plan on using them while airborne or in other situations that reduce accuracy. Yeah, I think I use it in tandem though for the range bump. Like opening shot, for instance, is really good on a slug just because you get that half-meter bump. What are the numbers on enhanced perks? Are there any guidelines or rules of thumb for all? Specifically, how much do the enhanced versions of firmly planted and opening shot give versus the base perks? The guideline is that an enhanced perk should be 5 to 10% stronger than a base perk. We do exceed this in some cases though. Here's an example of the enhanced versions. Enhanced firmly planted grants an additional +5 stability and +5 handling compared to the base perk. Enhanced opening shot grants an additional +5 range and +5 aim assist compared to the base perk. All right, somebody write that down. I'm genuinely curious why the one quiet moment origin trait was created. What's the benefit of having increased reload outside of combat? The intended loop is to pause after an engagement to see whether you have another enemy to deal with before reloading your weapon, because being caught mid-reload is bad news. This is something that doesn't match everyone's playstyle though, so we'll be updating this in Season 19. All right, so it's getting an update. Good. It's quite literally the most useless origin trait ever. What is the minimum draw time on bows after the recent changes? Minimum draw time is 500 milliseconds for lightweight frames and 540 for precisions. Weapon perks can reduce this even further. Oh, okay. So things like cornered, successful warm-up, that can make it go harder, odds and ends, and some fun with our Australian players. Neighbors are home and away. Neighbors. When is the nut bush emote coming to the game? Oh my God. Dude, I was on Mylan's podcast and just recently learned what that even was. We've heard a rumor that there may be weird Australian-ish dance emote coming shortly after Linefall. Let's go! When do we get truly awkward perk names like Drongo, Tua, Rakoff, Struth? Weapon names only so far, but there's a fair amount of those, and they're not accidental, such as with Teraba, Funnel Web, Redback, and Lunalata. Ah yes, the Lunalata. We still need to review that bow, by the way. It's a vice bow. What favorite weapon perk combinations does the weapons team have? Proctor, Perpetual Motion plus surrounded on sidearms and submachine guns. Brandon, Heating Up plus Rampage on pulse rifles. Vivian, Stats for All plus Reservoir Burst on fusion rifles. Alex, Intern, Grave Robber plus Golden Tricorn on arc weapons for PvE. Killing Wind plus Rangefinder on submachine guns for PvP. Alex, you may be an intern, but you got good taste, man. Mercules, Moving Target Perpetual Motion plus Kill Clip on any primary weapon for PvP. George, Perpetual Motion plus Killing Wind. I blame 90s arena shooters. Taylor, Killing Wind plus multi-kill clip. Interesting, okay. Yeah, kill clip is definitely a favorite here. Liking them damage perk, fellas. What replica weapon would each weapon designer want? Proctor, Dead Man's Tale. Yeah, that's a given. Brandon, Lawrence Driver. Oh, Brandon, why? It is a cool looking weapon, I'll give you that. Vivian, Redacted, Season 19 Solar Exotic Weapon. Interesting, all right, giving us some info. Alex, Redacted, Lightfall Raid Exotic Weapon, but Teraba is a close second. Alex, you gotta give us more information. You're the intern. Leak the juice. Margulies, Redacted, Season 19 Kinetic Exotic Weapon. George, Redacted, Season 18 Festival of the Lost Weapon. Oh, okay. We're getting that juicy weapon next week. Or is it the week after? Yeah, I think it's the week after. Taylor, Grid Skipper. Dude, Taylor's just like, yo, the hell with all y'all's fancy weapons. Give me the grid. I'd be interested in looking at what perks make gun rolls on what weapons. What would be the recommended for scout rifle, submachine gun, and pulse rifle? What works and why? For Mercules, depends a lot on what role the weapon is going to be. These roles can be broken up into some general areas. PvE, regardless of the role, generally perks that increase damage, increase magazine size, grant ammo, or improve reload speed are prioritized for ad clear, yellow bar, and champ killers, and DPS weapons. Ad clearing, perks that trigger on final blows are great, like Rampage, Subsistence, Swashbuckler, and Feeding Frenzy. Tanky target and DPS, perks that trigger neutrally or from dealing damage like Frenzy, Firing Line, Rapid Hit, and Triple Tap. And for PvP, two very different playstyles of perk preference. Dueling, perks that increase the consistency of the gun in 1v1 engagements, that is Moving Target, Rangefinder, Opening Shot, Eye of the Storm, etc. Kill chaining, perks that provide dramatic improvements to weapon performance after a kill. For example, Kill Clip, Tunnel Vision, Killing Wind, Rampage, etc. That's actually a really good breakdown. That's exactly how I review everything. What is your opinion on Rangefinder drastically changing the effective engagement distances on weapons? The zoom benefit already improves damage fall off and effective accuracy, but the aim assist fall off increase feels like a lot. We'll be removing the added aim assist fall off in the mid-season balance pass. The perk is ridiculously strong with just the zoom bonus. It doesn't need to increase aim assist fall off in addition to that, so it's still gonna lose stickiness outside of the range that's tied to its range stat. The increase in range is purely gonna be for damage fall off, but not for its aim assist. This is a rangefinder nerf. Who was I playing with the other day? I was playing with somebody that was talking about rangefinder getting nerfed. I think the Fizzle brought up that rangefinder is probably gonna be getting a nerf. nerf, hence why he was grinding for a God roll DFA. Holy hell, fellas, you might want to get that God roll DFA. Not saying that our God roll enhanced all stringer or IS Luna isn't good rangefinder, but this is going to be a nerf, and it's definitely going to be noticeable for controller players. Is someone going to fix the Fate of All Fools perk on the Jade Rabbit? It's totally inconsistent and sometimes doesn't work at all. Yes, the perk was having similar issues to what was going on with the cranial spike on Deadman's Tail. The plan is to change it so that rapidly chaining precision hits, effectively the same trigger as triple tap, will make your next body shot deal the same damage as a crit, and you'll be able to store up to 3 increased body shots at a time. So if you hit 9 crits quickly, you could follow that up and kill someone in PvP with 3 body shots. Okay, so it's good. Had Jade Rabbit been fixed the way it's supposed to be, which would be a single body shot and 2 crits, and Fate of All Fools actually worked every single time, that is the preferred way we would want Jade Rabbit in PvP. This right here makes it stronger on the tail end, not necessarily in duels itself. Bungie does state here, basically we want to reward accuracy and then make the gun easier to use instead of the other way around. I will say this, as someone who uses Jade Rabbit, even if it is somewhat optimal, I don't like going for body shots first and then working my way up to the 2 crits. I would just prefer to just get the 3 crits and then have that forgiveness going into the next gunfight. My question is, what's the duration of holding these shots? How do you feel about Season 17 and Season 18 balance changes now that they have been in the wild for a decent amount of time? We think most of them landed pretty well, all things considered. High impact 150 round per minute scout rifles probably got over buffed by a small bit. Auto rifles probably did not get buffed enough. We've seen both precision frame 180 round per minute scout rifles and hand cannons come up in usage and effectiveness, which is great. All right, the takeaway from that, guys, I think auto rifles are going to be getting a buff soon. What future balance changes should we be looking forward to? In the mid-season balance pass, we'll be making a number of changes to both under and overperforming archetypes. Sizable stability bumps for auto rifles and trace rifles. Small buff to critical hit damage on adaptive frame pulse rifles and precision frame auto rifles. Okay. All right, fellas, do you got that God roll enhanced ambit? Now's the time to get it. Slightly reduce effective range of pulse rifles at low to mid stat values. Nerfs to Jade Rabbit and no time to explain ease of use. Interesting. Okay. Continuation of the Lord of Wolves rework. Honestly, Lord of Wolves has been destroyed. I've played with it here recently, guys. It's so bad, I don't even want to review how bad it is. Small rocket launcher blast radius buff. Glaive damage resistance nerf. There we go. Sidearm aim assist fall off buff. Sniper flinch rework. I feel like that's just like a recurring sandbox change, right? Keep going, Bungie. Very small tweaks to submachine guns that are outperforming their intended ranges. Multi-mac. Hide. Small decrease to high impact scout rifle damage. Some outliers that have zoom levels outside normal parameters are being brought back in line. Wrist runner PvP arc damage resistance reduction will still remain ridiculous in PvE. That's interesting. Wrist runner is actually getting a PvP nerf. Like, sure, it's good against arc, but that's like the point. In Season 19, we have an additional list of changes we will be making, including removing some shotgun randomness, improving hit detection for glaives, reworking and changing nearly 20 weapon perks, reworking and changing over 20 exotic weapons. Holy hell. Massive sandbox changes coming in December. Now, do trace rifles have accuracy bloom as you hold down the trigger? Nope. All right, there you go, guys. No bloom. Is under pressure going to be nerfed on fusion rifles? How are you going to finally rein in Xur's main ingredient without diminishing precision frames as a whole? We're not going to nerf under pressure on fusion rifles. Most likely thing we'll do, if main ingredient usage doesn't come down naturally, is lower its stats. This will allow us to avoid hitting all precision frame fusion rifles and give other weapons in the subfamily room to breathe. Wow, interesting. Bungie doesn't necessarily target the stats that often, especially on an individual weapon and a legendary. Normally, it's sweeping archetype changes. That being said, precision frame fusion rifles as a subfamily outside of main ingredient are still very strong, and we're looking at them too. Okay, so maybe I spoke too soon. Regardless, main ingredient, you will be dealt with, and eventually maybe other fusions. Are there any plans to add more subclass verbs to more exotics? Lots of plans. Nothing concrete to share now, but we're always on the lookout for places where we can add subclass verbs. We have to be cautious, as some of the intrinsic functionality of the verbs may actually be worse than what is on the exotic weapon, or the uptime of the verb on the exotic weapon would cause severe balance issues with subclass interactions. Bungie just makes Sunshot give us Scorch. Scorch Earth! Will skill-based matchmaking, SBMM, being present in control, have any effect on the way we handle weapon balancing? We already use Survival and Trials as more indicative game modes for balance purposes. Survival has had SBMM, and Trials has the Flawless Pool, which enables us to see what good players use and what is effective when they are more likely to care about winning. It will, however, allow us to see what the different skill groups of players that generally avoid Survival or Trials use, and what they are effective with when they are not in skill pools that are mixed as Control used to be. Proctor states, if skill-based matchmaking continues to roll out over time, it may give us the option to revisit weapon skill gaps. What are your plans for sniper rifle and special special linear fusion rifle flinch. For sniper rifle flinch, we have dramatically increased the time it takes for the reticle to reset back to center after taking damage, which in playtests has seen a marked decrease in the amount of times players are able to shoot through flinch. We also greatly decreased PvE flinch to counter this. Oh wow, they targeted flinch differently for PvE and for PvP? What? This will not prevent players from trading with sniper rifles on their first shot, nor will it hurt players using sniper rifles who disengage to allow the reticle to reset before peeking again. But it should hopefully address the instances of hitting someone using a sniper rifle with multiple crits only to get sniped through it. If this change plays out successfully in the game itself, outside of testing, we will try to migrate it over to the special linear fusions. Ah yes, Lawrence Arbalest, your day is coming. Any fusion rifle changes coming, like rapid fire frame buffs. We want to see how the shotgun changes land before we rebuff rapid fire frames. Interesting, okay. What can be done to make Headseeker more interesting? The plan is to increase the duration the perk is active. Have the perk reset on body shots when it is already active, and have it increase aim assist by a very small amount. In playtests, it is a very good, arguably one of the best neutral perks for pulse rifles. Holy hell. Sounds like Headseeker is going to be a great dueling perk. And on some archetypes, it's better than others, right? We'll be making videos on it. Don't worry, guys. Do aggressive frames have high caliber rounds baked in? No. However, the flinch from a single shot is proportional to damage. So high damage per bullet weapons will flinch more than low damage per bullet weapons. Dude, I have said that for years. I have said that I think it's tied to damage and flinch. And everybody's like, no, man, aggressive frames have high caliber rounds. It's intrinsic. And you know what I did? I caved. I accepted it as truth when it is a lie. Dynamic sway reduction seems like one of the most misunderstood perks in the game. Can you explain a little bit about how that works? Dynamic sway reduction starts working as soon as you start firing. Each subsequent shot improves its effect, increasing accuracy and stability until it maxes out around 20 shots. So high round per minute weapons get maximum benefits more quickly than low round per minute weapons. Dude, I've been saying that for years too. I'm going with my gut. Everybody's like, Cross, where do you get your information? My thumbs, man. I get it from my thumbs. The perk deactivates as soon as you stop firing though. What exactly does box breathing do? After being ADS for 1.5 seconds without firing, box breathing increases the precision damage multiplier of weapons and increases the aim assist fall off distance by 10%. It resets when you fire the weapon or leave ADS. Is there a way to estimate how much zoom decreases the effect of cone angles? On most weapons, you can just divide the base cone angle by the zoom. That is 3 degrees base divided by 1.5 times zoom equals 2 degrees. Zoom reduces the size of both aim assist and accuracy cones, which means you're more accurate at higher zooms but have smaller aim assist radius. That being said, some weapons have additional scaling applied on top, like sniper rifles with aim assist. All right, guys, that is your weapon team's wrap up. Huge changes at TwitchCon. Come chill. The Bungie Foundation is heading to sunny San Diego for TwitchCon 2022 from October 7th to October 9th. Located right on the purple carpet as part of the Donor Drive Charity Arcade, stop by and say hello. Visitors will have a chance to take home an exclusive Bungie Foundation TwitchCon pin, as well as a brand new Destiny emblem. One thing to note though is that these emblems are first come, first served. So be sure to stop by as soon as you can if interested. Oh hell, man. I should have went to TwitchCon this year. Had some personal stuff going on this week, guys. We couldn't make it. Next year though. Moving on, the future of Destiny 2 on Stadia. While we have nothing to announce today, we have been in active discussions about the future of Destiny 2 Stadia accounts since Stadia's announcements last week that they will be shutting down in January 2023. Once we have a plan of action, we'll share more details with in-game Destiny 2 messages, TWAB posts, emails, and tweets from Bungie Health. For general questions about Stadia's shutdown, please review our frequently asked questions. Yeah, Stadia's getting shut down, guys. There are people that bought expansions only on Stadia. I'm sure Bungie's gonna have a way for you to transfer it though. Tower performance updates. To alleviate performance issues in the tower, we have temporarily reduced the population cap to 20 players while we investigate the underlying cause. New deep sight focusing. The first time players focus a season the Plunder weapon each week with the double perk weapon spoils pirate crew upgrade active, the focus weapon will now also drop with deep sight resonance. Gur Falcon updates. A fix for Gur Falcon has been identified and is scheduled to be shipped out mid-October. Okay, so probably around like Festival of the Lost, we'll be getting that fix. All right, guys, as a final note here from Bungie, and that's a wrap on our latest TWAB-tastic adventure. Hopefully, the update about account bans as the investigation into improved practices has eased some worries. That and the nifty Q&A with the weapons team has been interesting to see develop. We hope you enjoyed it. We're inching closer to the Festival of the Lost with all the spookiness that it entails. Bring out the mask, Guardians, because it's almost that time once more. We'll have more on that in a later TWAB, but for now, drink that water, prioritize that self-care, and remember to always lead with your kindest foot forward. Until next time, friends, I should go. Love, Hippie. Excellent TWAB this week, Bungie. This is the communication we wanted to see. I wanted to see. Sound off below though, guys. And as far as everything that we saw in today's TWAB, we'll be making breakdowns on certain weapons to look out for, certain exotics that I hope are going to be on that list of reworks coming next season. I know this TWAB didn't address everything, but at least communication is back up. I was actually concerned Bungie was gonna go dark on us, considering all the harassment and other things they get on Twitter. Guys, keep it chill. We want open communication here. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.